So, the most important question you want to ask yourself is, what are you feeding? When it comes to dealing with your negative thoughts or positive thoughts and just raising your vibration in general, the most important thing you want to understand is, or like I said, what you want to ask yourself is, what am I feeding, right? Because whatever you put your attention on every single day, it's what you're feeding, right? Whatever thoughts float past your head every single day, it's what you're feeding, right? So especially if it's a thought that you keep having, and you just notice it coming to your brain more than once, like, or just, especially if it's every single day, you're feeding it, right? And that's the first step, right? Like realizing you're feeding these thoughts. Now, on the positive end, you can choose to feed what you want, right? You can choose to feed the thoughts that serve you. You can choose to manually think the thoughts that serve you. And as you choose these new thoughts, little by little each day, you're going to build this new momentum, right? You're choosing a new frequency. So one of the most helpful exercises that I found is if you get a piece of paper and on the left side of the piece of paper, you just write all the thoughts that you don't want to think, right? All the thoughts that don't serve you, all the negative thoughts that you keep feeding every day, right? Now, on the other end of this list, on the other side of the paper, you want to write what you do want. But here's the trick: what you do want is just what you don't want, but flipped. So let's say you write down on the left side of the paper, I don't want to be broke. So if you don't want to be broke, right? If you just flip that, you'll find out what it is that you do want, which is, I want to be wealthy. I want to experience abundance. So whenever you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. So I highly recommend you to really be aware of your thoughts and write down on the left side of a piece of paper, all the thoughts that you really be thinking, especially the thoughts that are really consistent in your head. Just write them down, all the thoughts that you don't want, all the thoughts that you don't want to feed anymore. And on the right side of the piece of paper, just write down and just flip what you don't want, and then turn it into what you do want. So now you have this piece of paper with the left side being thoughts that you don't want to feed, and the right side being thoughts that you do want to feed. Now you have a choice. You just realize you have a choice, right? And as you go through your day, try to gradually feed towards the thoughts on the right side, right? You just have much more choice and awareness. And if you use, a lot of the techniques provided, you can definitely gradually shift your frequency, right? You pick your thoughts. You choose your thoughts. You choose the thoughts that you feed, and the thoughts that you feed basically is the vibration that you feed. So that means that your reality is really going to change depending on what you feed, right? But this is a gradual change. You're not trying to replace every negative thought with a positive thought. You're just choosing to basically choose your negative thoughts less and choose your positive thoughts a little bit more, right? So if you can choose, if you can think the negative thoughts for 5 minutes less, and think and choose some of the positive thoughts for 2 minutes more, then that's a win, right? And then the next day it will get a little easier, and the next day it'll get a little easier. And it's just a gradual shift because, releasing 5 minutes of negative thoughts today is going to actually raise your vibration because you're no longer dragging your vibration down as much. So if you release just 5 minutes of negative thoughts, you're going to be at a slightly higher vibrational frequency tomorrow. So tomorrow, things should be a little easier because you're deactivating your negative energy, you're deactivating your negative thought patterns, and it just takes a little time, especially if you're a beginner, but it doesn't take too long. But as you deactivate the negative thoughts more and more, because you stop feeding them, right? You're not feeding them as much, and they can't survive without you feeding it. And the strong negative momentum gets smaller and smaller. So try that exercise out. I think it'll give you a lot of clarity. And feel free to share this with someone who might need to hear this, and consider subscribing. Thank you.